I like that. Honestly, you working the overnights, I feel like I can just text you whenever you'll be awake because your 3 a.m. is my midnight. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
when you
doing.
fucking texted me yesterday, I was like, "Yo, what? Are
What
you
time was
working?"
it? What time was it? It was like
It was like,
almost 4 in the morning, right? For you?
yeah, it was like 3 a.m. almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, wait, when did I like? Hold on, let me. Yo, you working at 3:44 in the morning?
I mean,
Yeah,
you were.
I was.
Ladies and gentlemen, prepare for a cinematic odyssey through the 100 greatest films spanning from the roaring 1920s to the cutting-edge masterpieces of 2024. Carefully curated from the lovely people on Letterboxd. Two intrepid souls embark on a journey through a treasure trove of timeless classics and groundbreaking contemporary works, where each frame embodies the enduring magic of the silver screen. Grab your popcorn and join us on this epic expedition through a century of cinematic excellence, where every film promises to enchant, inspire, and leave an indelible mark on the soul. And now, for your listening pleasure, here are the LetterBros.
Welcome everybody to the newest episode of LetterBros, where we let a wheel decide our fate and what movie we will watch next, based off the top 100 movies on Letterboxd. As always, I'm Felix, and I'm joined by Parker, who doesn't like his coffee. How we doing
Oh,
today,
no.
buddy?
Coffee's good. The coffee's good. It was just quite hot. I have a habit of consuming things before they've properly cooled off. I shed like the roof of my mouth like every other week. Just sheds.
Oh,
So
dude, same. Like, I'll take that nice first sip of like coffee, and it just like burns my tongue, and that's just how I'm gonna live with that decision for the rest of the day. It's awful. Speaking of, no, I'm not gonna say
what?
that.
Speaking of decisions that you have to live with for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and speaking of awful,
Well, no, I'm saying it's apt because this movie is about decisions and memory, like of those decisions in a way.
fair. You
So,
could say that.
uh, yeah, but what's the name of the movie we're getting into today, Felix? And I'll bring us in on a quick synopsis. Well,
So today we are talking about the 2000 Chinese, or well, you'd say Hong Kong movie "In the Mood for Love," directed by Wong Kar-wai. It's it's something.
I
I'll
know
let
Felix did not like this movie, and I don't always post my scores on Letterboxd, so
we
I know that
know.
you. Uh,
I said we know.
no, I mean like I'll post how many stars. I don't put like the number necessarily in my Letterboxd review. Is what I'm saying. So while
Yeah.
I do have a review up for it first, or like not first, but I have a review up for it, but I haven't put the number. So I think I like deciding to kind of sometimes when we're recording. But
No,
yeah,
that's
we're
fair.
talking about In the Mood for Love, which some would call like one of the greatest films of all time. It's clearly on the top 100 films on Letterboxd, and basically just tells the story of two neighbors in 1960s Hong Kong who start renting apartments that are practically next door to each other. In time, they discover that their spouses are having an affair or maybe having an affair, and they start to navigate their growing feelings for one another. Throughout the film, they'll grapple with love, loneliness, and social expectations and try to keep their, while not expressly like sexual or romantic relationship, a secret. So yeah, In the Mood for Love. Felix, I've seen your review on Letterboxd. We've texted back and forth a little bit. I know that this is probably on the lower half of films that we've watched for you so far. What is it that you did not like about the film outright? Was it just boring to you? Like, what was it that brought it down for you?
So what I'll go ahead and start it with saying is that I feel that this is a very interesting position for this movie because like what I'm thinking about right now is like Woman in the Dunes, and not necessarily like because the two films are similar, but like in the ways that our reactions I guess are, because with Woman in the Dunes I was kind of on the fence about it, and then going into recording Parker was not a fan of the movie. And I feel like this film, it's like the tables have turned where it's like
Yes, one hundred
Parker, I
percent.
would say, is on the fence on it, and I'm just like I'm not the biggest fan of this movie, but I will
Mhm.
start out with positive notes, and we'll
Okay,
kind of
sure. Yeah,
dive into
let's do that.
yeah, because I do want to highlight a couple things in this movie that I did actually enjoy. The visuals were really good. Like all of the blocking, all of the set design, and especially Mrs. Chan's wardrobe
Wardrobe.
in this
Yeah,
movie
I
is
agree with you.
top notch. Like the dresses that they like select and just like all of the like the set design. This movie looked amazing. I was watching and just again, this is me trying to like just find something for me to like kind of latch onto this movie with. Like as I mentioned before, Criterion Channel has like little videos of like other people in the film industry that talk about certain films that you're watching, and the one that I watched was by Sofia Coppola. And she was talking about not necessarily how like the dialogue is moving the story a lot, because there is not a lot of I don't feel like there's a lot of dialogue in this movie. A lot of it is just told in like these still shots, and that's the thing that she was saying, that like there's like this visual storytelling that is very prominent in this movie. And while yes, I thought it looked really good and it was very much like a lot of eye candy to look at, there wasn't that's not enough for me to get hooked onto a story. Also, the score was something, I'll say. It was
Okay.
pretty much the same, like
I
besides
I
the
liked
Nat
how
King
you
Cole song.
Yeah, okay.
That's fine. I'm fine with that. But in terms of like original score, it was like the same song throughout the entire movie.
Yes. Which I loved at first, and then we got tons of it, and there was very little to no variation in the composed score. I really liked it. It sounded like something that you would see in an episode of Succession, but I agree with you in the sense that I wish that we got a more elaborate score because I really liked what they had to work from. It just got a little bit too repetitious for me. And
It was
honestly,
very repetitive, dude.
that's kind of how I feel about the movie to some degree. Not a lot. We don't really like the distance from point A to point B in this movie is not very far, in my opinion. And I understand that now after having watched it, my take is that I think that what we're witnessing throughout the film is a memory. And tell me if that's how you're perceiving this as well. But it seems like it's being told in memory because we get these alternate realities, and that is our character thinking. I think the character of Chow, Mr. Chow, right? It
Mhm.
kind of seems to be his memory. And he's thinking, oh, what if it went this way or what if it went that way? However, I also think I didn't realize that they were role playing as one another's significant others
I
until
didn't either.
halfway into like more than halfway into the movie. So I couldn't tell if we were getting all like some kind of prophetic like thinking what if this had happened and then something else happens. I didn't realize that they were literally just recreating the same thing over and over until there's a second scene where they do that. So it was very hard to follow in my opinion. And that's what I put in my letterbox review too is like while it was difficult to follow, at the end of the day, I don't think that there really was that much to follow in the first place. A lot of it is very simple everyday conversation, which I appreciate. And I get that it's kind of that very real and personal. Like it's trying to get to that by having these basic conversations about her hat or various Japanese books and his writing or the rice cooker in the beginning of the movie. And it just doesn't set up any significant plot, in my opinion. And I think that the really main thing that people take away from this film is the way that it's shot, which if I have to be honest with you, I found it kind of annoying. I appreciate the visuals, but we get these really really long takes where two people are talking and you just straight up never see the other person. And I get that that's a choice, and I think it's a bold choice, and I respect the
Mhm.
choice. It personally wasn't for me visually. I found it to be frustrating at times. And again, while I liked it at first, I think that it could have been used a little bit more sparingly potentially. There were some great shots in this film, but at times I was thinking like these are great shots, that's fine. But if I wanted to look at cool photography, like I'd flip to a photography book. Like I want some
Mhm.
substance to why we're seeing what we're seeing, as opposed to just seeing something beautiful. I want to see the meaning come across and through the screen, as opposed to just something that's good looking. And maybe I'm missing something, but you're right. I am definitely on the fence because I like this type of movie where it's essentially a romance in which the romance never comes to fruition. Like, I think that can be really, really effective stories. But yeah, at the end of the day, it felt very thin to me. This movie just feels a little bit thin.
Like there's a lot of times where I'll watch a movie and like, obviously like completely understand like what's going on, but it's tough when like you watch a movie and I immediately had to flip through the Wikipedia article to figure out like really like what did I just watch? Like especially the end where now all of
Yes,
a sudden we're in
explain that to me.
Cambodia and he's there like I thought he was like drinking something out of the wall, but then come to find out this was a line that Mrs. Chang said about like whispering secrets into a hole and then filling it up with dirt.
Oh,
You see? Like I was like, wait, when did that come up? So then I had to rewind the movie and go
I remember
back
that
and be
line
like,
though.
oh, okay, I guess that part made sense. But like, why are we in Cambodia? And now like that happened and we get that shot of like the dirt in the hole. And now all of a sudden the movie's fucking over. And I'm like, hello? So it wasn't necessarily the easiest film to follow, and especially in a movie where it's sold to you, and I mean like even the letterbox description where it was like this explosion of feeling when you have that be the selling point of the movie. And I feel like these characters are very like lukewarm. Like
Yes.
they don't show a lot of emotion. Like you get like one scene where it's just a still shot of Mrs. Chang and you just see her like a tear streaming down her face. But like that's pretty much the most emotion we get in this movie about infidelity, essentially. And not even just infidelity between these two people's own partners together. Like you'd think that'd be just give a little more ground of like emotion, but it to me it didn't. It was just a nice movie to look at, but a story that just left a lot to be desired, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I understand it. Like, these are our two protagonists, right? So we want to focus on them, and it visually signifies that their spouses are essentially out of their lives, right? Because we never see them.
Yeah, like they're
And it,
always working late and stuff, so like their schedules are kind of opposite.
yeah, I totally understand the symbolism, but it's exactly what you said. I agree. I don't think that there was a whole lot of chemistry, honestly. And really, I think that may be that it's hard sometimes to tell context of things because subtitles, I don't think that I watched this on HBO Max. I don't think that the subtitles did the movie justice. However, I also read something that Wong Kar-wai basically did not have a set in stone script for this movie. And tell me if you saw anything about this on Criterion, but they basically wrote it as they shot it. And it was a very long shoot. And I feel as
Feels
though
like it, honestly.
you can kind of tell, right? You can kind of tell that there was no through line to be seen, come to fruition because
Mhm.
it really did feel like it was just kind of happening as it happens. And sometimes that works. And in this case, I don't think it necessarily did, at least not to the same degree as it clearly works for other people. I didn't really feel super connected to this movie,
And something that I'll
but I
say is
appreciated
that
it.
like
I
we
definitely appreciate it.
no, and I think we something that we always talk about on this podcast is like different inflections for different cultures, and I want to hopefully like have that like chalk it up to maybe this is just how they express like emotions or how they speak to each other in Hong Kong, but it's just I wanted to be in the Mrs. Koo side of the story where they're always having fun. They're playing mahjong until like literally all night. Like that's the part of the story that I want to be involved in because that's where all the fun's at. But then you have these two protagonists who are, I mean, arguably going through like the worst thing that's ever happened to them. Like it's like one of the worst things you can do. But to them, they're playing it off as just like, oh yeah, like my wife or my husband's cheating on me. Let's go role play the situation. And even during the role play, it's like you don't even really know if they're like really interested in each other. Like I know the
Right.
whole point of the story is that like, they're playing this role and like Mr. Chow is starting to develop actual feelings for Mrs. Chang that I don't think that like she reciprocates immediately, but like throughout time she does build this feeling. I mean, we see
Kind
her
of. Yeah.
We see her come back to this apartment after, everybody has moved on. There's like new tenants in the apartment. Like, yes, like she comes back to that, and there's always this dichotomy of like what could have been. And even Mr. Chow comes back and does the same thing. But it's like, where was this at the beginning of the movie? Like, we never really know what the feelings are, what the chemistry is. And I don't really feel like these two had like really strong chemistry.
Yeah, and something that I will say that I respect, I guess, and like I appreciate about this film are that the two protagonists never really have a super like they never really have a romance, and I
Mhm.
respect that because it's a romantic movie about people who see their potential love to be forbidden despite the fact that they think that their you know, significant others are cheating on them with each other's significant others, right? So, but
Yeah.
they never stoop down to that level at any point, which I think is an interesting thing about the movie. I also think it's interesting that I don't think it's ever confirmed that their spouses are even really having affairs. It's heavily implied, but I don't think it's ever confirmed. And unless I'm wrong, like I like that about the movie that they could be wrong. They could be wrong about their spouses.
They could be. I mean, I think there's like early phone conversations of, because you never see their spouse's face
Right.
ever. You only ever see their two faces and like the neighbors' faces. But like a lot of, Mrs. Chow, it's, there's one in particular where it's like her from the back and she's like on the phone. And then it like, I think cuts to like the next scene and she's like taking a shower and she's crying her eyes out. Like, I don't know if that's like sort of confirming that like she did have an affair, but it's also never really like confirmed that those two are having affairs with each other. Like, it's very ambiguous. It's
It's very
very left.
vague. Yes, this
It
whole
is
movie
very vague.
is super
Like,
vague.
even the shots where like we keep getting this continuous shot of a clock and then people on the phone, and then it cuts to another scene, and I'm trying to think of like, is
There's
this
so
like a
many.
meeting point that we have now, or like who's on the phone with who? Like, it was just very
Right.
ambiguous.
There's a lot of still shots with voices off screen where I'm like, who is talking right now?
Correct.
Who is talking to each other? Because I want to understand like what the relationships are. And again, like maybe it's just something that doesn't translate. Like you know,
We're just dumb,
we're
Parker.
just dumb.
We're
But
just dumb.
it frustrated me at times. But yeah, I mean, do you want to move into rankings or do you have anything more that you want to add? I'm curious to see where our scores go. I know where your score goes,
let's
but
let's dive. I'm trying to look to see if I have any interesting like notes. Mrs. Chen's dresses are so pretty. Yes. You know what? I will give it this. Like, I do have a
yeah,
note on here.
I was gonna say I literally have a dress that says she's got a rad wardrobe.
Oh, rat wardrobe.
A rad, RAD.
Oh, rad. Oh, whoops. One note that I do have is like, this movie looks and is shot so well. How was this done in 2000? But it feels like a 1950s movie. Like,
Yeah, it does. You're
and
totally
not in
right.
a bad way. Like, there's a lot
No,
of shots that like give me like very big like Humphrey Bogart Casablanca-esque like
I mean
shots where.
it takes place in the '60s, so that is a
Correct.
testament to yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's what I'll say. Like, the blocking of it and just the way that it looks, it's trying to go for a certain type of movie, and in terms of the look of it, it's great. That's where I'll lead it into the rankings here. All right, cool. So diving into it, we know where this is going. If you follow me on Letterboxd, again, you probably should. For enjoyability and rewatchability, I gave this movie a fat old 6. This is, again, the visuals are there. I'm fine with it. This is not a movie I will be returning to anytime soon.
I also gave it a 6.
Hell yeah.
The only reason that I would rewatch it is to just try and give it a second chance. Like maybe I'm missing something and I need to watch it again, like having an understanding of it now. But I don't want to necessarily, you know?
Yeah. Like,
So
we were literally talking about it, how like you had like 6 or so friends on Letterboxd that already gave reviews of this movie, and the lowest one was 4 stars.
yeah.
And so I'm like excited to get into this movie, And I don't know.
For the
It
story, I hesitate to even. I give it a 7 because there's really not much of a story there. And I like the premise, but it never really feels truly fleshed out. And like you and I both just discussed, Felix, like the entire movie is incredibly vague. It doesn't give a lot of room to actual plot development or even really character development. And some people, I'm sure, would argue with me on that front, but I didn't think there was much in the way of progression throughout this entire quote unquote story. I want to hear what you have to say. I might go to a 6 on this.
No, for story, I also gave it a 7. Actually, I'm gonna also bump it down to a 6. I originally had it at a 7 just to like give it like not to completely like just shit on this movie, but I honestly like the story that we're given is not told in the most concise and clear way, and like maybe that's a director's choice to like leave it up to ambiguity, or have it be like what we discussed here, have it be a character choice of like, are these spouses actually like cheating on them or whatnot, or are they the ones cheating on their I don't know. Like, I'm all for a story that's left up to like interpretation. I mean, we've had a couple Bergman films that we consistently talk about. Like, Bergman will leave you behind, but just not far behind enough that you don't connect with the story and don't know necessarily, or are left in the dark pretty much.
He also develops his characters. Like, while we may not follow the story to the T, like the characters we know, like we feel these characters. And I didn't feel that with this.
No, me neither. So I feel comfortable leaving it at a 6. For lasting impression, that's where I start to kind of give it a little bit of leeway, and I gave it a 7. Again, like the way that this movie looks, and that'll bleed into my next score, is I think it's really nice. The way that the blocking is shot, like how this movie looks the way it does in an era that is, obviously not the 1950s, but I'm guessing like he took a lot of inspiration from 50s films and it looks really good. But that's mainly where it leaves an impression on me, because the rest of it leaves a lot to be desired.
I also give it a 7 for lasting impression. I think that the essence of the story will stick with me because, again, I enjoy the type of movies that tell these stories because there are so many decisions that people make in life where you think back as like, what would have happened if this came to fruition? And it doesn't even have to be with a romance. It could be with a job or with a friendship or an event that you chose to attend or not attend. So I appreciate the essence of the story that's being told here. And I think that I'll continue to keep with me, as well as the way that it was shot. I agree with you that it's very impressive that they made it feel not only like that it was set in the 60s, but that it was made in the 60s. It really had that feel to it. But I can't give it more than half. I think 7's a good score because it's just less than half of 15. And that's where I feel in terms of its staying power at this time, at least. With visual and auditory appeal, and this might be shocking to some, maybe even to you, I gave this a 7 because I did like what the movie was going for. And I think that there were some really, really awesome shots in this film. Also, I liked the score at first, like I said. However, as the movie got on, like as it continued to move on, it began to feel somewhat gimmicky to me in terms of the way that the movie was shot. And I grew kind of tired of it. And that can be said about the score as well. Even the Nat King Cole song, I was like, okay, I've heard this song 6 times in the past 30 minutes now. And it's the same. It always starts at the beginning and plays through the chorus. And like, I get it. Lastly, the ending. I mean, those shots in Cambodia, like, looks great, but I did not need it whatsoever. The movie would have been so much more effective in terms of its ending if it just skipped all those like super grand shots in Cambodia and just left us with Mr. Chow like reminiscing. It really felt like it felt like an instance of, yeah, you can, but should you? Like, does it serve any purpose whatsoever? And I really like visual, storytelling, but in order for visual storytelling to occur, the visuals have to tell some sort of story. They can't just be
Correct.
cool visuals. So,
Pop off, dude.
rant over. That's where I stand on this.
No, and I completely agree with you in some instance. Like, I gave it an 8. I originally had it at a 9, but I jotted it down to an 8 just because I had to think about, You know what the score actually made me think about was Love Exposure,
Hmm.
where like you get the same score pretty much over and over and over again, but at least in Love Exposure, like one, the score kind of like lent itself to the story, and again, you cared more about the story, you cared more about the characters, so like having to hear the same score over and over again wasn't a pain in the ass. Where here it's like you're trying to find something with these characters and then the same freaking score comes on, and I'm out here thinking like, oh, does the score kind of develop and get a little longer as their relationship develop? No, it does not go that deep, and it's where I have my other faults in terms of visual and auditory. It's an 8 because the movie looks great and Nat King Cole is the fucking goat, so I'll leave it at that. In terms of pacing, I gave this a 7 because this movie, like at the beginning, it fucking chugs along. It's just going,
Too
going, going,
fast.
going. It is. That's where I'll say. I'm like, it paces pretty well, but at the fault of comprehension of the story.
And then it slows down to a screeching halt, and we spend 30
I
minutes with
mean,
her stuck
yeah,
in a room
that's
and waiting
honestly,
for a
fuck
mahjong.
it. I'll give it a 6.
I also gave it a 6.
Wow.
Yeah, it just I didn't. There were points in the movie where I really felt like I was really trying to watch it, and it wasn't horrible. I don't think it was as ruthlessly boring as Woman in the Dunes or Human Condition. There were still some things for me to hold on to in terms of attention and wanting to see the story progress, but it still wasn't fully there for me. I think it moved really quickly and then slowed down, and the pace was just like difficult to keep up with it. I felt like I was getting whiplash at points. The acting, I see a lot of people really commending the acting here. I think it was good acting. I think there's a lot of subtleties with the acting. And also, like, I know how difficult some of those shots were where even when they're not doing a majority of the talking, they're having the camera just sit right there on a close up and they have to just listen. So I think that a lot of that acting was really impressive too, because it never felt like the lines were just bouncing off our protagonists while they were sitting there with the camera right in their face. With that being said, I'm going to give the acting an 8. Because I thought it was really I thought it was really good, but the writing was so flat that I don't think that it really gave the actors the ability to really have those incredible like powerhouse performances like we saw in Scenes from a Marriage, where there's actually a lot happening and we have these feelings and there's pent up energy that leads to outburst. And not saying that there has to be outburst or fiery passion in order for me to give this a higher score in acting, but I mean, the actors weren't given a chance, in my opinion, to really shine as much as I think that they could have.
Yeah, and I'll agree with you there. I mean, it's we talk about it all the time where like we truly give the score of acting for like everyone we see in the movie giving the best performance possible. And where yes, the two protagonists do give a pretty strong performance, it does leave a lot to be desired, and we honestly I liked all the supporting characters a lot more than our protagonists, like the guy the coworker that comes up to Mr. Chow and asks him for like $30 because he spent all of it at the whorehouse. Like that's the movie I want to fucking see. Like that's where those are the kind of characters that like I'm like more emotionally attached to than the two main characters that are going through this infidelity. So that's where I give it a 7, to where, you know, the protagonists, Mr. Chow and Mrs. Chang, they give pretty great performances and work with what they're given. Like you said, that you can chalk it up to like, you know, the script not really giving a lot of kind of fuel for these actors to work with. And that's where I'll leave it at. I just wasn't really compelled by these performances. Going into suspension of disbelief, I gave this a 5 because a lot of times, and again, this was something I had to find out after I watched the movie, was that they're role playing essentially this infidelity. But other than that, I felt like I was watching the same scene over and over and over again. Like when they're out in the rain, they're talking, and then they're in an apartment, and then they're back out in the rain. And it just was so confusing and like took me out of it almost completely.
Yeah, I agree with you. I gave it a 6 because it's just all over the place. I mean, it really feels like guerrilla style script writing. And I like that we get some repetition, because I think that you can do that very effectively, where two characters cross the same paths like day by day, and eventually like their relationship starts to blossom and things happen. And I don't hate that. But yeah, a lot of the movie just felt very jarring, and it also felt like the intentions were to be cinematic, which is constantly reminding me that I'm watching a movie and I'm not really watching something that's taking place between two real people. So at times that definitely took me out of it. I'm watching a piece of art be made, sure, but like I can tell that it's meant to be that, and it's not really allowing me to immerse myself in it. For originality, I give it an 8, and that feels harsh. Maybe I could bump it up to a 9, but I don't think, yeah, I'm not going to, because the premise of the story is not like anything crazy. And the techniques, I mean, the filmmaking techniques here are incredibly original. Like, that's where I give it all of its points. But in order to get a 9 and a 10, I need to see something more than just original composure of shots. Like, that's really where I stand with it. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, like, to your point, this we really give originality for this, like, being a look into the director's brain or the writer's brain, and having it really be like an original concept that a person just came out with all outright, and it's something we haven't seen before. I gave it a 7.
Yeah, like he didn't even write the script. Like, you know?
Yeah. He
Yeah.
just he just directed. Like, he wasn't the cinematographer, he wasn't the writer.
Well, and not that it's a rating of the director's originality, you know, but what
Mhm.
I'm saying is like the movie was like seemingly kind of made on the fly.
But I mean, that's where I'll leave it at for originality. Like, the compositions are quite original. I did like the way that it was shot. Really hadn't seen like a lot of shots like that before, or like the set design in a movie like made in literally the earliest 2000. It was something that was truly captivating to watch visually, but the rest of it is not something that I thought was very wholly original. And that bleeds into my attachment, where I leave it at a whopping 1. I just don't feel attached to this movie. This is not something that I'm going to return to. Like, it is what it is.
Yep, I'll leave it at a 2, and just the same. Like, it kind of is what it is there. Feel a little bit better about a 2 than a 1. But yeah, 57. So I do think that I like this better than Woman in the Dunes. Excuse you.
Excuse me. Yeah.
100%. Like, it was much easier for me to
Whoa.
watch. What is going on there?
I don't know. Hang on a second.
What's our average score?
Our average score is a 55, so we apparently liked it more than Woman in the
No way. Yeah, I liked it better than Woman in the Dudes. I also liked it better than Human Condition. I probably liked it better than City Lights, if I'm being honest. Though my score doesn't. Actually, yes,
Damn.
I think this is above City Lights in my score.
Oh, well,
That's
not in
I
the
mean, that's cool though.
I think this is the first time that my negativity has brought the score down for you.
Yeah, and we
Even
weren't
like,
even
because
off
you
by that
liked it
much.
more than I did, apparently.
No, I did. I think that's clear, which is the second movie in a row. Let me see here, because I'm curious, and you can choose to or not choose to leave this in. I had City Lights at a 56. So In the Mood for Love at 57. City Lights at 56. Where is Woman in the Dunes even on here? Or Human Condition? I don't think I have them on this list. Never mind. I'll have to go back and add those. So forget it.
Well, what a quarter. Our 25th film in the freaking books, dude.
That was 25. Damn.
Yeah, dude.
That's
We're
upsetting.
25% of the way there, or the way into this list.
Well, that
So,
is exciting. It's a shame that it ended up being in the bottom quadrant of our list. But hey, man, that
yeah.
means that 26, you never know what we might get.
So what I'll do is, at least for like the quarter episode, I'll kind of just run through really quickly our top 10 films for the LetterBros podcast.
Okay, let's do it.
So at number 10, Wild Strawberries. Number 9, Cinema Paradiso. Number 8, Grave of the Fireflies. Number 7, Princess Mononoke. Number 6, High and Low. Number 5, Witness for the Prosecution, which arguably I think is is I think our top movie.
It's number
Number
5 though.
I know, but like this is the movie where it isn't blocked by nostalgia or like
Okay.
it's just a movie that we both went into firsthand, never seeing it before, and we were both like, this movie fucking rocks. Number 4 is Parasite. Number 3, Spirited Away. Number 2, Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. And number 1, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back.
Crazy.
I
Crazy.
know, dude.
What did you give it? Like a 98?
I gave it a 95, which is crazy.
I mean,
dude.
that's pretty high. That's all right, though.
It's very high. But yeah, dude, it's time to start a new quarter, start a new chapter in our life with this podcast.
Let's do it. Hold on. I found out what I gave Human Condition. Somehow got a 60 for me. Okay.
Human Condition?
Yeah, but it's not, I mean, it's not that far above the 57 that I gave this one. So whatever.
Damn.
It's your fault.
Well,
that's what I'm getting at.
My fault. Well, it always is, but it's okay. We're still doing this podcast. So, well, yeah, we're starting to, as always, see more and more names. I just saw The Thing pass by, so I might just give it a little bit more time to cross through. I'm pushing for The Thing, dude. I need a horror movie. I need the horror movie. But well, cool. Are you ready, buddy?
I am. Sorry. I'm updating my Letterboxd because I'm changing my official rating for Human Condition. It doesn't have to change for the show, but there's no way that its enjoyability and rewatchability for me is at a 6 right now. Like, I'm pumping that baby down to a 4.
For Human Condition?
Yeah, I don't want to watch it again.
I don't blame you, dude.
Watch, we're gonna pull the fucking sequel. Spin the wheel.
You like put that juju out there, dude. The wheel is listening.
Just do it.
But
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Let's do it.
Gonna have to watch it at some point.
We sure fucking do, bro. Start of a new quarter. Oh my god, dude.
Yes!
Yeah!
Let's go. You called it, baby.
You
Not
fucking
me.
pulled it out, baby.
Let's go. Oh my
That's
gosh.
fucking awesome.
For those of you listening, we pulled 1982's The Thing, baby. John Carpenter. I'm stoked. Have you seen this movie?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Obviously one of my favorite horror movies, and I'm glad we're finally getting some horror. It deserves to be represented on the top 100. I wish that there was more horror on the top 100, so I'm stoked. Part of me wishes that we weren't getting it so early on, because this is one that's just going to rejuvenate my love for the fact that, not that I ever don't love that we're doing this, but like, I love this movie. So let us know what we're getting into.
No, dude, this is yours. Go.
All right, yeah, we've got 1982's The Thing, directed by John Carpenter. I actually don't even think, though, I have it at 5 stars on Letterboxd, but I know I can be a stingy asshole sometimes with it. But Kurt Russell, right? Okay.
Yes.
His name was escaped me there for a moment.
And
so
Keith fucking David, baby.
Yeah, Kurt Russell, Keith David, and a bunch of other great actors in John Carpenter's The Thing. In the winter of 1982, a 12-man research team at a remote Antarctic research station discovers an alien buried in the snow for over 100,000 years. Soon unfrozen, the form-changing creature wreaks havoc, creates terror, and becomes one of them. This has got an average of 4.4 on Letterboxd. It's currently sitting at the number 89 film on the top 100. When we created it, it was at the number 84 spot, so I'm sorry to see that it's gone down by 5. But yeah, dude, let's go. The Thing for movie number 26.
That's fucking wild, dude. The tagline is crazy, though. On Letterboxd, man is the warmest place to hide.
That's disgusting.
That's crazy. So honestly, like just kind of giving just a little bit of background for this movie for me. Like I watched a lot of TV as a kid, and Bravo had this like top 100 scariest movie moments of all time show. And there's a lot of imagery from that show that really curses my mind. But the fucking thing, when you see the dog, and I won't give more into it because I want listeners to be able to watch this, but fuck that dog. Fuck that dog, dude. That shit haunted my dreams for forever. And I refused to watch the movie for the longest time up until like maybe like 8 years ago, and it's one of those movies that like it's so special. Just even like outside of horror, like this movie did so much with so little, and John Carpenter really just fucking rocked it. So I can't wait to see what we rank it. I can't wait to hear Parker talk about this movie.
It's going to be a top 10er. I already know. For me, this is
Exactly.
probably my favorite movie that I've seen. Never mind. We still have The Apartment as well, which I'm very excited for.
True, but it's up
But
there. I mean,
it's
this
up
is
there.
like
It's
on the
certainly up
level
there.
of like this is on the level of like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars for me. Like this is like one of Parker's like it's not his top 4 on Letterboxd, but it might as fucking well be. Like this movie is
Right now, my top 4 is Scream 1, Scream 2, Scream 3, and Scream 4.
Well, as always, Parker, it's always fun to jump on this with you. I'm glad
Yes,
we
sir.
got through this and we're able to pull something beautiful out of such a tragic movie.
It wasn't that bad. Like it was boring and thin, but like it was one of the better of the worst movies that we've seen.
I mean, no, fair. But as always, where can people find you?
Yeah, find me on Letterboxd at Parker_Paget. Yeah.
We love it. You can
You?
find me on Letterboxd at Ezio911, ETZIO911, and always just follow LetterBros at LetterBros Pod on Instagram. It's where you'll get our announcements and all of our other stuff. But as always, this is the LetterBros Podcast, and we will see you at the movies.